Good morning. I do apologize yesterday for the technical difficulty where I was cut off at the very end of this presentation. So I will go back over the processing secondary claims. The secondary claims is when someone has two forms of insurance. It can be a husband or wife. The wife may be a might have a secondary policy through her husband's job because she is the primary of her own, or it could be the situation where you have a patient that has Medicare and a secondary insurance such as United Healthcare or Medicaid and Medicare. So you will understand and learn the differences by next week. And let me go ahead and continue. So the secondary insurance claim is filed only after the remittance advice, the RA, which is an electronic EOB explanation of benefits generated as a result of processing the primary claim, has been received by the medical practice. As a general rule, the secondary claim cannot be filed electronically because the remittance advice must be attached to the claim sent to the secondary payer, meaning that you're going to have to show proof that insurance one has paid their portion and now you're asking for insurance two to pay theirs. Many payers require primary insurance information to be entered in blocks 11 through 11C, and the secondary policy is identified in blocks 1 and 1A. In addition, payers require the secondary policy to be identified in blocks 9 through 9D. So I found a better form where you can see all of this at the same time. Whereas here's 1A, 9, and 11 through 11D. Supplemental plans. Supplemental plans usually cover the deductible and copay of or coinsurance of a primary health insurance policy. Some plans may also cover additional benefits not included in the primary policy. The best known supplemental plans are the Medigap plans, which are supplemental plans designed by the federal government but sold by private commercial insurance companies to cover the gaps in Medicare. Supplemental plan information is entered in blocks 9 through 9D on the primary insurance claim. Now make sure that you do not get confused with secondary and supplemental. They both use the same blocks, being 9 through 9D. And supplemental, it's not an insurance. It will cover exactly what it says, the deductible and or copay of deductible and copay or coinsurance. So the patient will pay a little bit extra to have coverage that will cover, let's say, if you have a $5,000 deductible and you have to have an MRI. An MRI can run you $300 to $400 easily depending on the area. And that supplemental insurance will assist in covering that deductible, whereas your insurance is going to actually pay for the procedure once the deductible is covered. Now, I don't know if you remember this, and I really don't remember talking about it, but I think I talked about it in your very, very first PowerPoint, types of insurance. Remember that the deductible has to be paid first before the insurance will kick in and pay its portion. Most times, insurance is going to be designated by a percentage. So you're either going to have 90-10, 80-20, 70-30, 60-40. The most common split is 80%, 20%. 80% to the 80% to the insurance company, 20% is responsibility of the patient. Now, this percentage does not kick in until after the deductible has been paid. And I mentioned $5,000 deductible because that's what some insurances quote their deductible as. Some people have a deductible of $100, which is great. So that means your out-of-pocket expense will be $100. So if you go to the gynecologist and your doctor bill is $150, well, you are only going to pay $100 out of pocket, and they will bill that $50 to the insurance company because you've met your deductible. Whereas if you had a $5,000 deductible, they're going to charge you that $150 because you have not met the deductible. Okay, so common errors that delay processing. After the claim has been completed, check for these following errors. Keyboarding keyboarding errors. Because you're typing fast or you're not paying attention and you've spelled someone's name incorrectly. Incorrectly entered information such as the procedure code number and the diagnosis code number. You need to make sure that you have the correct numbers and the amount of numbers and characters required. Make sure that the policy identification number on the insurance card is correct. That the federal employer tax ID number, the EIN, is correct. The total amount due on a claim. Incomplete or incorrect name of the patient or policyholder. You cannot use nicknames. You have to use their real name because there are some patients that come in and they'd rather be called or referred to as their middle name rather than using their first name, or they use a first initial to designate their first name, but they don't use their last name. It's crazy, but the whole point of it is you have to use their legal name. Example, my father, his name is Beverly Andre Graves. Well, he usually goes by his middle name, Andre. Well, anytime he goes to the doctor, he has to put his full name. Because if we do not, or he does not, then those bills will not be processed correctly. He cannot put Andre Graves because that's a part of his legal name, but his legal name is Beverly Andre Graves, and he has to put that. So no nicknames and no middle names only. Omission of the following. Current diagnosis because of failure to change the patient's default diagnosis in the computer program. You remember we talked about how some electronic programs will go based off of the last note? Well, you have to make sure that if when the patient comes in, make sure they're either coming in for the same thing or not. That's just a simple way to put it. You really shouldn't be copying notes because that's not accurate, because you could possibly leave something out for the day that they were supposed to come in, or that they did come in. The required 4th through 7th digit of the ICD-10 CM digits and the procedure service dates. Make sure that you put the correct dates, because what if you're not open on Saturday? What if you're not open on Sunday? That typically throws a red flag to the insurance company, especially if those dates are not typically used for procedures. So be careful of that. Hospital admission and or discharge dates. Make sure you know when the patient was admitted, and make sure you know when they were discharged. If it's an outpatient procedure, meaning they will go in the same day and come out the same day, that's the same day. There is no discharge or admitting date. This is just same day. The name and NPI of the referring provider. Required prior treatment authorization numbers. Let me say that again. Required prior treatment authorization numbers. When you call for verification of insurance, sometimes the insurance company will ask you, well, what are you planning to do? And they give you a treatment authorization number for you to put on your claims, because that way they know, well, hey, we told them that we're going to pay them, and this is a reference number. Now, do all insurance companies do that? No. But the ones that do are typically workers' comps, and you have to have that claim number or treatment authorization number in order for them to verify they said yes to paying you. The units of service, remember you have units of days, which is normally going to be 1. Sometimes it may be 2 if it's a hospital stay. And then your number of units if it's counted. Remember earlier too, I referred to if you need to send something to the insurance company, that attachments of outpatient and policy identification information on each page. They will throw it away because they don't know where it goes. They won't throw it away, but they'll dispose of it properly, such as shredding. But if the insurance company doesn't know who it belongs to, they're not going to try to figure it out. They'll deny your claim and say start all over again. So everything that you're going to send to the insurance company, you don't have to worry about putting all of that information on a CMS 1500, but a report, any medical documentation, a SOAP note, you have to put the patient's first, last name, date of birth, and insurance ID. Failure to properly align the claim form in the printer to ensure that each item fits within the proper field on the claim. You can test the printer alignment by using it. Most programs have a blank runner, and you'll print a sheet of paper with the X's and lay it on top of the claim to see if it will print correctly. Handwritten items or messages on the claim other than required signatures. So you cannot write out a claim. That is a no-no, and it will be denied. Just denied. They probably won't even give you a reason why, because you should know better that you don't write on a claim. And earlier when I told you about the signatures are generally designated as SOF, signature on file. So you really don't even have to use a stamp or write on it. You can use a doctor stamp, but the most common function is to just put SOF. Failure to properly link each procedure with the correct diagnosis. That's block 24E. When we talked about going from 21 to 24E, those diagnoses and procedures have to be linked together. If not, the insurance company will say, well, what did you do? And you'll say, well, I performed a flu shot and I did a physical. Well, we don't know that because you didn't put the diagnosis pointers there. Now, the insurance companies are not going to be that nice, but I'm just telling you, they have to match or your claim will be denied. Okay guys, so this video was short and sweet. This was just me wrapping up the video from yesterday. I will post this today. You should be able to finish these notes today. Next week we will start on Medicare, and that's when you will start doing your claims. And if you have any questions, as usual, please feel free to email me. Other than that, you guys have a great weekend, and I will touch base with you next week.